Hi, my name's Sharon Jeffess, and this is number one in a series of 10 Teaching American History Through Art videos. And I hope you join my channel and you get excited about teaching art and teaching American history and even teaching science and all of the classes, your core classes that you can teach using art for your visual and your kinesthetic learners, and they're going to love learning a lot. So let's get started. We're going to start with in American history, we have to think about they didn't actually have cameras, so artists recorded history. And when we look at the early American pictures of the Revolutionary War, one of the most famous artists that we look at is John Trumbull. And if you look at this particular picture right here, this is the signing of the Declaration of Independence. You can look at the details, look at the people, some portraits of people that you recognize, and we'll talk about that. John Trumbull is most famous for his pictures of the Revolutionary War and the founding of America. Now he studied with a lot of times at that time you would have an artist that you would study with. Like I love to have students that want to come under my teaching and that I can help them to be a better artist. Well, John Trumbull came under the teaching of Benjamin West. Benjamin West was the official artist of the court of King George in England because wealthy people and people that kings and queens, they hired an artist, a portrait artist to do pictures. So these two pictures are pictures of American history. And as you can see, the one on the left is a picture of George Washington, and he is resigning his commission in the military, and he is going to be taking a different position or first president of the United States. Now, the next picture is Benjamin Franklin, and this is by Benjamin West, a very important picture. And many early American artists went to Europe to study. And there's a website on here. If you get the video, you can stop it and you can go to these different sites and you can learn a little bit more. This is how to make a kite. And you can put a picture of Benjamin Franklin on it. You know, creativity is really, really important in art. And we're going to watch this for just a moment about the discovery of electricity. And this will just take us a minute to watch this. Let's see. We're going to go ahead and we'll do this one. Let's do this one. Sorry it's taken me so long to get this, but I thought it might be really fun for us to watch it
Benjamin
together.
Franklin risked his life with a kite experiment. It's
Here we go.
story. In 1752, during a thunderstorm, Franklin flew a kite with a metal key attached to it and observed sparks jumping from the key to his finger.
This experiment confirmed that electricity existed in lightning and led to the invention of the lightning rod. But that's not all. Franklin was also the inventor of the Leyden jar, an early type of capacitor that could store an electric charge.
This discovery laid the foundation for the development of electronic technology. He also observed that some materials could conduct electricity while others couldn't, and discovered that the flow of electricity could be controlled by insulators and conductors.
What's even more fascinating is that Franklin realized that electrical charges were conserved and could only be transferred from one object to another. He suggested that there were two types of electrical charges, positive and negative, and that these charges were attracted to opposite charges and repelled by like charges. He also proposed the concept of an electric field, a force that exists around an electric charge and affects other charges in the field.
All right, that was
fascination with
very,
fixing
very
our things off
interesting.
made Franklin.
We learn a little bit about Benjamin Franklin. And, you know, and you can do a kite, you can make a kite, and we're going to do a portrait of a famous American. I'm going to have a demo on how to do a portrait step by step. But sometimes now we're going to just do a project that's really creative. But Benjamin Franklin was one of our founding fathers. Old Glory, or the American flag, has 50 stars representing the 50 states and 13 stripes representing the original 13 colonies that declared independence from Great Britain. and became the first states in the United States. The Gadsden flag is a historical flag with a yellow field depicting a rattlesnake coiled and ready to strike. Just like we have the turkey, the Thanksgiving turkey that Benjamin Franklin, I believe the story was, he wanted that to be the bird of America. But we know the bird of America is the eagle. And when the Gadsden flag is very historical, and it was very popular because it had a rattlesnake. And the idea was, don't tread on me. The idea is if you left America alone, you would be just fine. But if you tread on it, it's going to strike. And so these are two ideas for a flag. And it might be really fun for you to try to come up with a very original idea while listening to music. Frederick Church did this picture, and isn't it amazing? You have the clouds and you have the stars, and it almost looks like American flag in a landscape. Now you've probably seen a lot of different American flags. You've probably seen an American flag with an eagle on it or with an eagle. And what's a great thing is if you come up with an original idea, that's really exciting. So we're going to listen to some music, and I want you to come up with an original idea while we listen to the Star Spangled Banner and see what idea you might be able to do as we're listening. You can use pencils and colored markers. What does this inspire you to do? You can listen to that again and you can work on your artwork and just until you're really ready to come up with a really cool idea with the American flag. And if you're stopping the video, you can stop the video and click on that and listen and try to do a really original picture of the American flag. You can put a sunset in the background. We're going to have really fun demos on how to do different things. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is a portrait and a portrait artist in early America. John Singleton Copely was really famous for his historical portraits, and he also studied with Benjamin West. And the picture on the left, of course, is Paul Revere. And Paul Revere was also a very famous silversmith and very, very important in American history. And if we talk about a portrait, there's a certain way you can do a portrait, and we're going to learn how to do that step by step. So we're going to click on this right here, and we're going to learn how to do a portrait. So let's watch this. And what I want you to do,
We're going to start out with the
I want you to
classic
practice
proportions
this
of the
first.
face. And, the face is many different, people have round faces.
Just do this
Some
with me.
people have square faces, oblong faces. But you were just going to start out with pretty much of a basic oval. And we're going to learn the classic proportions of the face. Now, there's a way you can do this in your mind. You're doing an implied grid, but to do this lightly in pencil first will probably make a better picture. Even professional portrait artists that I've seen do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a line about halfway down where the eye goes and come about halfway the bottom of, excuse me, the bottom of the nose, and then about a third of the way down, and we have the lips. Now, in this picture right here, I already have it done, but we're starting to do it on this one. So we're going to do it step by step. Now, if I intersect the face like this, and we did this a little differently when we do a face that's looking in one direction, but I want it to be somewhat symmetrical. So if I do that as a guideline, that's very, very helpful, because then my things can be, it'll have a certain symmetry to it. Now, the way the bottom of the nose line is the same line that the top of the ear. And again, everyone is different. This just gives you your basics of where things go. Okay, now we're going to take the eyes and put the eyes on. Basically, you can do 5 eyes across the face. So we're just going to do, of course, 2. And we put our shape in there and our shape in here. Now, if you're doing anime, or everybody's a little bit different, but this just, we're just doing the classic proportions. Now, we do the bottom of the nose because you can't see any hard lines. You show the nose with shape, with shading. And in fact, this particular nose, I believe I'm going to bring it over just a little bit. It's a little too big. I always thought my nose was way too big and fat. So I'm going to bring it over a little bit. And then, of course, we have the philtrum, that little thing in the middle. Actually, that was the first prize in a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Somebody had to say, what's that called? And it was the philtrum. We have the philtrum, and then we have the mouth. And when we start drawing the face in, a lot of times I always put a little bit of shading at the neck, We want it to look as good as we can. And when I start drawing the face in, the lips, I make like a bat shape, and we're going to go into that a little bit further. But if I like a little flying bat, and then I come in a little bit, and I draw the bottom of the lips. The secret to drawing lips is we go up, it's curvy in the middle. Now, everybody's so different. So a good portrait artist, a really good portrait artist, I'm going to make the mouth a little bit bigger. A good portrait artist can replicate exactly what the person looks like, can redo it. If you go and get a quick portrait of yourself at the fair or something, but you want to keep everything in alignment. I'm going to move the mouth over just a little bit because I have that line and I want it to be symmetrical. I want it to look good, and that's just fine. These are structure things. This isn't coloring it in. These are just classic proportions. So I start with my eye and I put the pupil. There's different parts to an eye, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I put the pupil in the eye. Darkest place is the center, and I can add a little bit of white to that, a little bit of light in the pupil. It's always a good thing. When you have your eye, and then you have your eyelid, and you have your eyebrow, as you're getting it to look more real. And the golden mean, or as we read about in the PowerPoints, we have the classic proportions. This is the classic proportions of the face. And then, of course, our little eyebrows. Some people have eyebrows tattooed on. I couldn't believe that when I found that out. I was amazed. But that's very, very true. Now, let's see. We go here and work on the eye. Now the nose is basically shading. But you don't want to have any strong lines. And you use your eraser with this, depending on whether you're using pastel, or you might be using charcoal, or you might be using mixed media. Now and again, I would use my eraser with this and work on it a while. But what I want you to know about this is the classic proportions of the face. Now hair, look at somebody's hair and you want to stroke it on. You want to look at the hair and go with the movement of what the hair looks like. Always go with dark and light values. Always darker around the face. We could put color in the eye. But as we're working, I want you to do the classic proportions of the face. Remember, halfway down, between the chin and the eye line, we have the nose, and we come about a third of the way, we have the mouth. And these are pretty standard for whoever, whatever, whenever, so to speak. This is the classic proportions of the face. Now, when you are an artist, you're going to notice really cool, like how is this person different from other people? Are their eyes really bigger? Or exactly how do I do this? And the background and everything. But this is just the classic proportions of the face.
Okay, now we looked at that, and what I want you to do next is I would like you to oh my goodness, let me go back and I think, yeah, let me get this again. See if we can all see this. I want to look at this real closely. Uh, Again, this is the classic proportions of the face. Some people have round faces like myself, and some people have heart-shaped and oblong. Everybody's so wonderfully different. What I want you to do as an assignment, I want you to choose a favorite person in the Revolutionary War, and I would like you to research their picture. It's a good idea sometimes, like if you chose Benjamin Franklin and then you put Wikipedia, you would get pictures and portraits of them. You might choose George Washington. I have a delightful story about George Washington. His picture was done by an artist named Peale, and Peale actually was a scientist artist. He founded the first natural history museum, and he exhumed the first mastodon, and he actually made George Washington elk's teeth set in lead. George Washington had terrible teeth, they say, and his gums would be swollen, and artists would lament this. And he actually made him teeth. So as you think about it, now I'd like you to do two pictures, two things in art. Number one, do a picture of the American flag that goes along with our national anthem, something patriotic. Maybe perhaps you want to be able to have put this on a t-shirt, or you're coming up with a really great, maybe you have a politician you like, or maybe my favorite politician is Teddy Roosevelt. And as we go through the American history through art, we'll talk a little bit about him and Ansel Adams and the wonderful things that he did for the national park system. But many people have favorites in American history. Andy Jackson, uh, I think that he said, pity the poor man who knows only one way to spell a word. He was notoriously not a good speller. So there's some marvelous stories. But I'd like you to do a portrait. You learn a lot from a portrait. A portrait is a realistic picture of a person, and you really learn a lot in painting as you copy a famous portrait. And there were no photographs, so you'll have to do a portrait. Now, as you can see again, this is a picture by the great Benjamin West of Penn's Treaty with the Native Americans. And if you decide to do a picture of a person standing up, you want to remember these proportions. They'll take their thumb and go like this. And what they're doing is they're thinking, if the head is this big, then how big is this? Like you're sort of doing an implied grid. But an adult person is generally 7.5 to 8 times the size of their head. So if you're doing an adult, then you want to make sure that you have it in correct proportions. So to go over what we started with the wonderful art of the Revolutionary War, and we talked about portraits and picturing American history. So I will see you for video number 2. And I just want to thank you so much for coming. And I would love for you to be able to have your assignments done and that you could send them to me. And I know you're going to love, 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 love number two video. So thank you very much, and we'll see you for number two. Bye.